If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. I want to throw out an opening comment, and then I would like to see what you think about this, okay? How about if I were to say, you know what? You were born to be dominated. You were born to be held back. You were born to be ridiculed. You were born to be dismissed and invalidated and scorned and derided. That's your lot in life, and you just need to get used to it. What would you think if I were to actually say something like that and honestly believe it? Now, of course, you would think you've lost your marbles. And obviously, that's not what I think at all. And yet, despite the absurdity of comments such as that, that's the way so many narcissistic individuals think. They have such a need to dominate. They have such a need to see themselves as better than you. And their attitude of entitlement takes them to such a haughty place that they honestly live as if those kind of comments were their mantra, their way of doing things. Let's rephrase this and start again. What would you think if I were to say, you were born to be accepted? You were born to be loved and to be introduced to goodness and decency. You were born to be included, and you were born to be heard and known and respected and encouraged. How about that? That's a much better alternative, isn't it? And whereas many narcissists may say, oh, I believe all that stuff. No, the proof is in a person's actions. And when you examine individuals who are deeply entrenched in their narcissistic pattern, their need for dominance and their need for superiority is so strong that they can't stop themselves from being that way. And in the meantime, it does all sorts of damage to you and to your ego. I want you to just think about some of the characteristics that tend to go along with that dominant style of engagement from the narcissist, and we're going to look at what it'll do to your ego. For example, we know that when people are caught up in the pattern of narcissism, they're strongly critical, they invalidate easily, they make shaming comments, and they motivate via guilt. Go figure, as if that's a real good way to do it. But they figured, well, that gets me what I want, so that's part of their manipulation. They tend to have lots of dysregulated anger. Sometimes it comes out in rage. Sometimes it comes out in snippy agitation. Sometimes it's in contempt, holding grudges, passive aggressiveness. Their anger is way out of bounds. They have many ways to pay you back, if you will, if you don't do exactly what they say you're supposed to do, if you don't comply or conform. Many times they'll give you punishing silence. And with these narcissistic and dominant people, it's not like they have the best opinion in the room. To them, they have the only opinion in the room that matters, and you better figure it out. They have zero need to hear from you. They will ask loaded and insulting questions like, what's wrong with you? Or where'd you come up with an idea like that? They can push their agenda onto you until they finally just absolutely wear you out. That's what I'm talking about when I say that these people are committed to their dominance to the point that they can't stop themselves. Every now and then they may come along with some pleasant kind of characteristics, but as a general rule, this is what you're going to see from them. And then when you've been exposed to this kind of dominant theme, it can't help but have an erosive effect upon your ego. And when I talk about your ego, I mean your sense of self, who you are and how you conduct yourself, your image of yourself. I want us to look at some of the natural consequences of exposure to this dominating theme and what it can do to your ego. And then I want to see if we can come up with some much better ways of thinking and being. One of the consequences when you are exposed to this pattern of thought is that naturally it inhibits your very best your very best qualities. That's a gross understatement, isn't it? You become hesitant. You go into second guessing mode, like, well, if I do this, I'm not sure if that'll be okay. Sometimes you may actually imitate that narcissist in reverse. You respond in kind and you think, well, that's not the kind of person I want to be. Other times, what it does to your ego is it creates what I refer to as a psychological imprisonment. How many times have you felt like you were hemmed into that agenda? And you have to be super guarded and careful about how you spend money, or the social contacts you have, or the kind of opinions you're supposed to maintain, or the interests you can pursue, or even the career that you choose. Things like that. I've talked to so many people who are trying to get away from that narcissistic person, and they illustrate this imprisoned kind of feeling when they think, well, maybe if I do my own thing, that might be selfish, or I shouldn't do that, or it's going to upset the apple cart. And it's like, no, get outside your fence. But so many times when you've been in under the dominance, you feel like you're inside this locked fence. You're inside this locked way of doing things, and to get out there and to be fully free feels really strange. In addition, you wind up having this ongoing guilt and shame upon yourself. And when I say that you hold on to your own guilt and shame, it's like you're trying to create a preemptive reaction to the criticism and the harshness you know you're going to receive. Well, if I tell myself I'm no good, it doesn't hurt quite as bad if that other person tells me I'm no good. And so it's a weird way of trying to protect yourself against the narcissist, that dominant person's criticism. Sometimes when you've been under that dominance, you have flashbacks, and you can be triggered by bad memories, and that in and of itself can have an inhibiting effect upon you. You can wind up having free-floating tension and agitation and stress and anxiety, and that tends to be the result of many episodes where you suppress the real you, or you mismanage your emotions because of how that dominant narcissist is going to treat you. Many times when you've been under that person's dominance, you wind up displacing your emotions. You feel like, well, I can't really get through to that narcissistic person, so I'm just going to unload it on this person over here. The old, I'm mad at the boss at work, so I go home and kick the dog. I mean, no offense to Gus on that one. He didn't like that philosophy at all. But you can find people that you can unload your emotions on when they're thinking, why are you doing this to me? Sometimes you wind up becoming very cynical regarding the good traits in life. I've had so many people, when you talk about making yourself available to other individuals, or showing trust or kindness, or having optimism, or leaning into your own unique capabilities, they have a dark reaction to that. It's like, that stuff doesn't work. And you wind up having a deep pessimism that you draw upon. Trust can feel like a setup for more hurt, and so you just hold yourself off from other individuals there. And then too many times when you've been under somebody's dominance, you can have a sense of appeasement and suppression of your emotion. It's not a good formula. So when we look at that original statement that I made, you were born to be dominated, you were born to be derided, I think we're just going to say with as much emphasis as we can, no, you are not. Look at what the ingredients are that they operate with. Look at what it does to a good person like yourself. No, it's not right. And you are not meant to be dominated, and you don't need to carry the effects that it has upon your ego. So let's take a look at a few things. When you see that you've been under a dominant narcissist influence, part of your growth is going to know what you need to unlearn. Part of your learning is to unlearn things. And we're going to start with saying certain things to the negative, I guess we can say. And that is, I don't believe in derision. I don't believe in telling people what they have to think only. I don't believe in cramming people into a mold. I don't believe in bullying. Okay. Let's take it further. Instead, I hope that you can be very specific and intentional in the traits that you do believe in. I believe in decency. I believe in empathy. I believe in kindness. I believe in responsibility. I believe in coordination and harmonizing. And then let's take it even further. I'm hoping that you can examine your emotions, because we mentioned how your emotions wind up being dysregulated, and claim ownership of where you're going in your own emotions. This is how you get out from under their dominance. Why do I have the anger reactions that I have? What's valid about it? What's not valid about it? What are the healthy versus unhealthy ways? Same thing with fear. And by the way, the best way you can see if you're fearful is to watch how defensive you are. Why do I feel the need to be guarded and cautious and pull that drawbridge up? What would be my alternatives there? What does openness look like? What about that guilt and shame? What do I believe about that? And you want to claim ownership of it and realize you have decisions that you get to make, and you can remove some of their influential teachings upon you and claim your own. And ultimately, this means that you get to prioritize you. You get to prioritize your thinking, and you get to prioritize your beliefs and your preferences. And then we're going to say, and if that narcissistic individual who has to be dominant over you says, this isn't working for me, then your reaction can be, I see that. And I acknowledge it. It doesn't work for you, and it doesn't work for me either. Dominant narcissistic individuals have so rationalized that it's okay for them to be the way they are, that they can't stop themselves, and they truly show that they don't understand life. So that being the case, why don't we just say this? I truly do not believe in the way that dominant narcissist treats me. I have far too many plans for my life and for who I'm going to be and how I'm going to manage myself than to acquiesce to a very troubled person. I hope that videos such as this can give you some real good things to think about. You know, when I do these, I know that many of you see this as being something that gives you some things that can take you on a very different path. And I so appreciate you being on the journey, or allowing me to be on the journey with you. And I'm hoping that it really is something that can be life altering in a therapeutic kind of way. If you've not already subscribed, I would encourage you to do so and hit that like button. If you have a need for therapy, we're sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. They're an online therapy resource, and they have an entire team of licensed professional therapists that you could click on the link we have below and then select the therapist that you would feel would be the most beneficial for you. I would strongly encourage you to go in that direction if you're trying to unpack this. In addition, I've provided courses. These are like classes, online classes. They're very extensive. I have 3 of them, Ready, Set, Connect. And then This Is Me and Free to Be. We have descriptions of those beneath the video. And each course has multiple videos and teaching documents and guided questions. It would be a lot of work, but it could be very therapeutic for you there. We have my webinars. We have our the podcast that we have. We have our website that has many articles, lots of resources for you. The narcissist thinks, yeah, dominance is a good idea. I don't think that. I don't think you believe that either. Instead, let's go in the notion that says, if that's the way a person wants to be, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I've got my own path that I'm going to go with gladly, and claim your own decency. And in doing so, I hope that it can take you to a much deserved place of peace.